This is part 3 of my 914 repair video. If you want to see what's been going on before this, check out parts 1 and 2. But I'll show you what I've done today. I was able to find some more push rod tubes. I had a set that just were really out of spec and I wasn't going to use them. These are supposedly made by Dansk, I think it's pronounced. And you know, they're not bad. At least the area where their O-ring goes on is about the same diameter as the old ones. But what you see here is that where the O-ring fits, it's a lot narrower than the original. And I don't know if that's going to be an issue or not. I've installed 4 of these on one side of the engine already, and they fit nice and tight, nice and snug like the originals. So I'm assuming they're going to be okay. But you know, the old ones, original ones, have a little wider spot for the O-ring to fit into. But I'm thinking that these will work out all right. They seem to be close enough to work. If you've never seen a push rod tube that has been well cooked from the exhaust leak from the heat exchangers, here's one to look at. I'd say this one is well done. You know, left there long enough, it's going to destroy that seal. Probably start leaking at some point. But that's well cooked. You find a lot of them like that. On the transmission, what I've done so far is I've temporarily installed the gear set back into the case and also installed the shifter console. I do that so I can make sure that the shift rods are all working correctly and I got everything aligned right before I button this whole thing up and put all the new seals and gaskets in it and tighten everything up. I mean, you can temporarily, you know, hold it down so it doesn't move around, put it in the shifter console, and then you got to check and see if it all works right. First, you know, it should snap in, all the gears should snap in nice and crisp, and go through them all. It should snap right in really nice, and then when it's in neutral, it should slide in and out without any resistance and without hitting anything. It should be nice and smooth. If something's amiss, you'll know it now before you button the whole gearbox up. So I left the gaskets in there. There's 2 gaskets on this one. You have to kind of match the thickness of these gaskets with the new ones, because that sets a relationship to the from the pinion gear to the ring gear. So you don't want to get that too far out of spec. You probably start making noise or starting to whine. So I'm going to button that up. Everything seems to work smoothly. I'm going to pull that back out, put all the new gaskets and seals in it, and reassemble it. The tin on my engine was pretty beat up, and I had this set that I rehabbed well, a couple years ago. All it needs is a coat of paint. It's in primer right now. So I'm going to paint these up and put these on the engine. The old ones are pretty scratched up, dented up, and dull. They need repainted anyway. And I got both heads on. Now I got the second one back on and buttoned up with the rockers on. So that's where I'm at now. I'll get this transmission reassembled, get the rest of this tin back on the engine, and we'll go from there. I pulled out these heat exchangers, take a look at them, see why they were leaking so badly. And if you usually take a big file like this one and run it across both of them, back and forth, until everything comes up even. I started working on this one, and you can see that this area right here is really high. You know, and that keeps this thing from sealing correctly, and you end up with a leak over here. This one's not quite as bad, but still, you can see it's high on this side too. So I'll keep working on these with this file. I'll work on the other one also until those are completely flush all the way across. And I'll make a nice flat sealing surface for those O-rings, and maybe I can get away with not having any exhaust leaks this time. It should work out. Well, I'm ready to reassemble the rest of this engine. I got everything on, both heads are buttoned up, and I got the valves adjusted. And speaking of valve adjustment, there's lots of ways to do that. Everyone has their own idea about how they want to adjust the valves on these engines. But one thing is a fact. Each lobe operates opposing a valve on each side. So when this exhaust valve is completely open like it is now, and the back side of the cam lobe is against this side, it's ready to adjust. I do mine that way. I think I get the most precise valve adjustment that way, so I know that the back side of the cam lobe is on the valve that I'm adjusting. But everybody has their own way. There are some easier ways to do it. But that's what I do. I'll get this rest of this together today, and let me get it installed here in a few days. I got the transmission all cleaned up, got it all reassembled, all new seals and gaskets. Also installed a new throw out bearing, and I put a new nylon bushing in that shifting fork to get a little bushing on the back side. And quite often they'll crack and start falling apart, so make sure you check yours out, because if it does crack and fall out, then your clutch adjustment goes totally out of whack. So that's where I'm at this morning. I'm going to button the rest of this up, get it ready to reinstall, and hope everything's turned out well. You think you thought of everything, but you never know. I've been looking for the piece of that valve that broke off the very beginning once I found that. And I couldn't find it anywhere. I was walking through the garage the other day, and there it was, laying on the floor. Must have fell out of the head when I was carrying it to the workbench. Glad I found that. I didn't want it floating around the engine forever until it caught something important. I was really worried about that, so I'm glad that finally turned up. That's amazing how that broke off. Okay, I found some more work for myself. These are the rear mounts. This one's cracked, and so is this one. So I found some other good used ones in my pile of stuff. Those are pretty dried out. Those will be throwaways. I got the engine together as much as I'm going to until I get it in the car. All the wiring is in. All the hoses, everything's buttoned up pretty much, except for the fuel lines. Tranny's ready to go on, and I'll get to that this afternoon and maybe get this motor up in the car. Found another problem. Once I get the motor in the car, I found that these heat exchangers have some issues. This one, the mounting here is cracked and pulled away, and that's a hole in there. There's actually exhaust coming out of there. So I'm going to have to repair that before I get these heat exchangers on. I don't think I have another good set of 2-liter heat exchangers, so unless I can find another pair, I'm going to try to repair these and see how that works out. So we'll get this together and get this engine in this afternoon and go from there. Well, I got the motor installed yesterday. Got everything hooked up, most of everything. All the wiring, all the fuel lines. a few things I didn't finish up and won't until I start this car back up again. I got most things buttoned up, everything underneath, everything except the heat exchangers, because they're going to be a problem. I went through all my 2-liter heat exchangers that I have, and they've all got the same issue. Ears are bent upward and they're cracked at the bottom, or they pull loose. Every one I have, every 2-liter heat exchanger I have, has the same issue. So I'll just need to find some way to repair these. I'm thinking of heating it up red hot and bending these down so they're horizontal again, and then welding up the cracks. It's going to take me a while to get all that done. So you may have to wait for part 4 of my video to find out how I made out with those.